This is a Mad Dog Matt special report. I'm Matthew Merlino at MDM Racing headquarters in Montvale. It has just been confirmed that Brad Keselowski is going to the number 6 Roush Fenway racing car in 2022 with a part ownership stake. Keselowski is speaking now at the press conference. Let's go there live.
Started.
Jack, let's move to you talking about this journey. Can you talk about this partnership, what it means to your legacy, and what made Brad the right person?
For 10 years, I'd watched Brad as he came into the sport, and I had to struggle
It has two
Excuse
speeds.
this. I don't think that was supposed to happen. Why? All right.
was born and operates most traditionally. But he fought his way in, and he earned the space to compete. He figured out what he needed to do to be a factor, and he competed for winning races successfully, and he competed to win his championship, and he's one of the top drivers in the sport. He's an inspiration to me for what he's done with his truck team. To put it in perspective, you know, we had our greatest success when we had 5 teams, and the bigger challenge would have been to have one team and realize the improvements you needed to have in the parts and what the strategies need to be in order to keep the thing moving forward. But anyway, he was successful with his truck team, which was very impressive to me. He was competitive as a driver, going to the highest levels of the sport, and in the meantime, he was competitive as started a aerospace manufacturing service company that is got a great future, and so he's ready for his next challenge, which is participate in the ownership of a team. I welcome him as a partner and look forward to what we can do together. I'm been asked to say that I'm passing my baton to him, which I am, but I still have one hand on the thing, so I'm not going to give up completely for a while. There's no retirement plans for me in my immediate future. I intend to keep going to the racetracks the way I have, and to be as much of a nuisance and a distraction as I've been to my drivers and my crew chiefs in the past. But over a period of time, Brad will earn his independence, and he'll gain a significant position of ownership in the team. One of the things that's been a challenge for me is to answer the questions I've gotten over a period of time. When are you going to retire, and what's your ascension plan? Well, Brad Keselowski and the next-gen car and the things that we can do together in the near term and the future that we see long term is my retirement plan, and I just hope I can take lots of green flags and lots of checkered flags before we get there.
Ed, can you talk about how excited the folks at Fenway are about Brad becoming a big part of the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that I would say is the partnership that the Fenway Group has with Jack, with Evan Lyle, and with Roush Industries has never been stronger. It's very rare that a 50-50 partnership can be in sports enduring and smooth, but this has been a very long and enduring and smooth relationship from the beginning. So I want to thank you, Jack, for that. I can't think of an issue where we've looked at it in different ways, and I really look like the selection and addition of Brad to this partnership is very much in the spirit of a smooth and enduring tradition. We, at our other teams, want to compete to win championships every year. That is our core DNA. We're very excited about the trajectory of this sport, but you have to be successful on the track. And I think this move is entirely motivated to getting us back to what Jack's legacy is of Roush Fenway being in the hunt for a championship every year. So we're just thrilled to be part of it. Brad joined the enterprise.
All right, what we're going to do now, Wendy has the mic, so we'll open it up for questions. We'll go first to Claire B. there. And we'll go to Jordan.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. You tweeted a few days ago a song by U2, With or Without You, and then you tweeted, if your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. Can you talk about that, Brad?
Well, this is a big challenge, but it's a big dream of mine to be an owner and a partner at the NASCAR level with, the right ownership group. And I think this is it. But, it's scary. I have a great team right now. I'm not going to say anything differently. And I've been very privileged to drive for Team Penske and to have the success we've had. It's tough to leave that, and I don't want to deny that in any shape or form. But this is a big dream of mine that was worth leaving it for. It's not an easy transition. I know the work is going to be hard, and that is scary, right? It's scary to leave something where you know you can be successful, to go to a new opportunity, but I believe in this opportunity. But we have to go do the work. It's not, nobody's going to give anything to us. We have to go work for it.
And Jack, right from the beginning, did you think that this was the right thing to do? Were you searching for other things? Did you need to do something at this stage? And when you came together with Brad, were you immediately like, yeah, this is right, we need this, or did it take convincing? And thank you.
Brad has distinguished himself by taking on more things than he needed to be successful as a driver and participate in NASCAR. His track team was a big challenge, but he wanted to do that apparently in order to get get his legs under a team operation. And I can't say more about how impressed I am with his space-age manufacturing aerospace components. To take that on as a separate skill set and a totally different industry speaks volumes. So I look forward as Brad finishes his driving career, which hopefully will be not sooner than 5 years, and hopefully I'll stretch it. Like I did Mark Martin, I'll stretch it many more than that if I can. But, for him to be willing to think about not how he's going to spend his money and enjoy his time off after he stops driving, but to have him think about what he could do is participate in the next level in the management of a team. And to enjoy bringing along young people to realize their dreams, to start their careers, and have things develop so that they can have the security for their families and all. He's willing to be a participant and to make his mark in that as well. And so those interests and those motivations fall in line with what I'd hoped for my drivers. And I think it marks a path for other drivers and other owners to think about their legacy plans as the years advance. You can't do anything about the advancement of years. You just got to plan to make the most of them.
We'll go to Jordan.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. I have a couple questions. This one's for anybody who wants to answer on the stage. Brad is purchasing a minority stake in the organization. We know that Roush and Fenway are 50-50 partners. I'm curious if you can say how much of a stake Brad is purchasing in the team and where that stake is coming from.
Sure, I'll take this one. As you guys have heard me say before about financial matters or contract matters, we generally don't get into the details on that, but he is obviously purchasing minority interest, and where it's coming from is a little bit interesting. He's not actually buying it technically from Roush or Fenway. Both of the existing owners have said, hey, we want to maintain our stake and keep going. It's being issued by the company, and the way that we look at it is we have basically 3 partners operating going forward. And the way that we've always done it, as Ed mentioned, it has not depended on who owned what piece or how it was a consensus direction on how we move forward. And that's what we fully expect with Brad, Jack, and Fenway as we go forward. We actually think it's just going to make us better and enhance us getting to the next level.
And the second question, this is for Brad. Brad, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how much of a reconciliation did you kind of have to make of saying, hey, I'm leaving an organization where winning in championships and races is an annual thing almost, for an organization who is probably going to need a little bit of work to get to that level?
Yeah, I mean, there's a workload associated with it that, honestly, I'm excited about. So the reconciliation is, it's certainly there. But, I think with the next-gen car, that's going to make that a heck of a lot easier. We have a whole bunch of other plans that we're working on that we're not ready to announce that I feel confident will be a part of that as well. But ultimately, it's going to come down to 3 things: resources, people, and processes. The resources are always shifting, and the next-gen car represents that shift. So there's a little bit of a level set there. The people are always changing and growing, and we'll continue to work with that. And, we want to build a culture that has successful processes. So All those things have to come together to be an elite team. And there's a lot of changes in the marketplace that make the timing of this the best it possibly could be. So, I know nothing happens overnight with respect to making the performance where we want it to be, but if ever there was a landscape to expedite that process, this is it.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Steve, following up on the, I know you guys don't disclose financial considerations here, but is it fair to describe this stake that Brad is getting as like XX percentage of the team? I mean, is that what you mean by minority owner? He has like a certain amount of Roush Fenway?
Yeah, absolutely. He's buying a minority percentage of the team, and the hope and expectation is that may grow over the years as well.
Yeah, following up on that, you said after he's done with driving, he could have a bigger role. Would that include a bigger percentage of the team? And could that include possibly, would there ever be a chance for renaming the team with Brad?
So as far as what the future holds, I think what Brad and I have talked is that he's going to drive as long as he's competitive. And if you look at where he is, he's actually in the prime of his career from an age perspective in NASCAR, which is why it was so thrilling for us to be able to have him come join our team next year. Once we get to that point about when he says, hey, it's time for me to pass the reins to another driver, we've got a structure set in place where he'll assume a greater leadership role. But a lot of those details we don't think are relevant now because they're so far off into the future. And then we'll kind of see how things evolve. But one of the things that has been most appealing to us about this transaction is we now have 5, 10, 15-year strategic plans about how we're going to keep growing, getting better. The owners have committed to continue to invest in the sport around next gen, upgrading facilities. And so, for us, it really gives us a runway that we think will allow us to excel.
Would you consider adding his name to the team name eventually?
There's a whole host of things that we're going to be changing, structure, our partners and all this. And what we've kind of said is that we're going to kind of get through this announcement since it's been brewing for quite some time. And then we'll circle back with everybody on a lot of the details about what things will look like in 2022 in the coming months.
And for Brad, how long do you want to drive? And did you make any effort to keep the 2?
Did I make any effort? Well, the 2 number is Roger Penske's, so that would not be my place. And honestly, if I look at the legacy of Jack Roush and the company, the 6 comes first to mind, right? So I would say that the answer to that is no. How long do I want to drive? As long as I can compete to win races and championships. I feel like I have at least a 5-year runway, if not a 10 to 15-year runway, if I start lifting weights like Mark did. And I'm committed to just that. I want to win races and win championships as long as I'm capable to do so.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Following up on that, Brad, did you ever consider asking for the 29?
In the back of my mind, yes, but quite honestly, in order to live up the legacy that Jack has set, I think the 6 number is, it shows that I'm bought into the company, and I don't particularly feel like I want to force matters of that type at this time as much as I want to be a part of the team and show that I'm a team player and part of living up to Jack's legacy and continuing it for years to come.
And I guess this would be for Steve. I mean, where does this leave the current driver of the 6, Ryan Newman?
Sure, I think it's a very fair question on the circumstances. And just to rewind a little bit, when Brad and I were first having these discussions, and then when it was ultimately consummated in March, we talked a lot about expansion. And we actually explored whether adding a 3rd team would be the right direction for us, and kind of looked at the charter market, which has obviously been appreciating quite a bit recently. And we ultimately decided that the best path for Roush Fenway and for us to achieve our goals next year would be to remain at 2 teams. And so I was communicating regularly with Ryan, and I will tell you, ever since we brought Ryan on board several years ago, he has done every single thing that we've asked of him. He came into the company, he helped us get to the playoffs in his first year, he helped elevate our competition meetings, and then obviously in his second year he was on the cusp of winning the Daytona 500, only a couple hundred yards away, and that didn't end the way that we wanted to and kind of threw that season out of whack. And although we haven't met our expectations this year, we've been unbelievably appreciative of what he's done. And so, I've talked to Ryan regularly as recently as yesterday, and, we've talked to him about whether he'd be interested in a part-time role with us, kind of what he wants to do next year. And I think it's fair to say that he's still trying to make that decision on what's his best path and what his best course is. And so I don't think he has a timeline on deciding, when he's going to kind of solidify his plans for 2022.
And for Jack, did you feel that you had to do something soon or now as far as finding somebody else to kind of invest in the team and have that succession plan?
The timing is certainly good. The reset that's going to occur for the next-gen car creates an opportunity to look at the process and look at the allocation of resources and think about the things that would be different. I know when you look at what it's going to mean to the individual team members, the job descriptions of what they do is going to change. We had a discussion with the management of the team yesterday about the tire changers. It used to be that the most important thing for a tire changer was his hand speed. And looking at the one fastener per wheel that we're going to have for 2022, I think that the leg speed, the ability to move quickly around the car is going to be more important than the hand speed. So as we look at the talents that individuals have got and what the new car is going to require, it's a time to make a reset and to change the priorities and figure out to optimize our situation for the future. But Brad has indicated his willingness to take the role of being part of the Racing Council as we make the decisions as a team, not for me unilaterally decide what we're going to do in a specific area, but to mouth it and weigh it and to make a decision together from what's important, what appears to be important from the driver's seat, what's important from the management at the racetrack, and what's important for the management in the shop. So the reset's real important. I think we're organized for it. It's a great time to make the addition of a championship driver like Brad. And of course, it gives me a chance to think about not having this thing end when I can no longer function in the team, but to have it to continue on for the benefit of the people and their families and the other things that the industry that supports it for the community.
Peter Strada, TSJ Sports. Brad, the one crown jewel you haven't won is the Daytona 500. 2 years ago, last year, 2 Roush cars were about to finish in the top 5 in the 500, and then this year you were within a mile of the victory. Is next year your best shot to win the 500?
It's hard to say that next year's the best shot, but it's a great shot. I think one of the strengths of the program today is that the Super Speedway program. No doubt Jimmy Fenning is an excellent leader for that side. It's one of the areas of strength for sure of the company, and I expect we'll be able to go to Daytona and Talladega and immediately contend for a win. So I'm looking to fire off very strong, yes.
Seth Egger, kicking the tires. This is for Brad and for Jack. You've talked a little bit about succession plans. Do you feel like there is a youth movement among the ownership in NASCAR?
I guess I'll fire that one off unless you want to start with that one. Okay. I feel like there's a series, a season of change, no doubt. I don't see a lot of the ownership going away, but I see, some fresher faces. You look at Jeff Gordon kind of taking on a more active role with Hendrick Motorsports, and you have the Trackhouse transition with Ganassi, and there's probably a few more to come, no doubt. And so I think it's natural over time to see those transitions. I think it's a good sign for the sport that it's, going through a little bit of a metamorphosis, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I hate to speak for other teams, though, and what their plans are, but I think it's a good sign for NASCAR that the owners are reinvesting in some way, shape, or form and remain committed.
I think we're headed out of the dark ages for the business side of the sport, where any person that knew a lot about the operation of the teams and the competitive challenges would have taken smart money and invested in the sport. But now we're seeing new owners come in with the next-gen cars reset. We're seeing new owners come in, and I think that Brad's not the last of drivers that will say, well, they'd like to have a piece of the action when they get out of the driver's seat.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Brad, with the leadership position in the competition department, how do you envision that role? And is it a case of, certainly this is an organization trying to make the playoffs. Do you come in and be, I guess, the tough guy and say, here are the ideas and I'm going to be the guy to shake things up? Or how do you try to work within the system since you're the big pivot point in all this?
Well, I think, Dustin, it's a critical role for me, and it was a critical role for me in joining the team, no doubt. I think that really comes down to the style of management that you have. And, I'm a big believer in servant leadership. A lot of my intention is, yes, to hold people accountable, as any leader does, but more so to serve, and to serve the team and helping them get what they need to be the best they can be. And that means being an active listener as much as, setting direction, but helping them achieve their goals and helping them tell us what to do. There's the old Steve Jobs saying, we hire smart people so they can tell us what to do, not so I can tell them what to do. And I'm a big believer in that. So there's, certainly some work to be done in that area. And I've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so it's a pretty easy ratio.
Jim Utter, motorsport.com. For Brad and Steve or Jack, if you'd like to comment on it, it's kind of related to Dustin's question. You talked about the Tony Stewart model at Haas. One of the things at Stewart-Haas was not only did Tony Stewart go there, but because Tony Stewart went there, he attracted a lot of top talent in other areas across the whole organization. Do you foresee something similar to that happening at Roush Fenway?
Yeah, I think, Jim, first off, hats off to Tony. What he did over there was amazing. And I don't know if he's ever gotten the credit that he rightfully deserves. He took that company that had never won a race and, again, in 2.5, 3 years' time, won a championship with it. That was so impressive. This team, I think, is quite a bit ahead of that position that Tony entered. So I don't think it'll be as tough of a road. And of course, the next-gen reset and all those things should certainly play a factor in it. But one of the key things, to your point, Jim, is Tony did an amazing job of bringing in key talent. And I think we're always looking at talent. Things will change, teams change, companies change over time, and people go different places, and things like that happen. And I think our eyes and ears are open as talent becomes available at all times. And I'm hopeful that we'll continue to have an influx of talent with this announcement. It's one of the key reasons why we're here today, is to show the world that here's what we're doing and to make sure that we're attracting the best talent as it comes up.
Yeah, I think the short answer is absolutely that is our hope and expectation. And to piggyback on Dustin's question as well, our expectation is Brad is going to come in and inject new ideas and new thoughts and bring new innovations to us. Interesting, when I first shared what we were doing with Chris Buescher this spring, he looked at me and he said, Brad Keselowski is the driver that is most like Jack Roush in the garage. And it didn't quite connect for me right away, but what he basically said is he is unbelievably driven, relentless, but very analytical in how he thinks about things and the processes that he pursues to achieve his goals. And we've seen that just in the last couple weeks, couple days, when Jack and Brad have been talking and trying to sit down and sort out what's the right path for excellence in 2022. So my expectation and our hope is that Jack and Brad will continue to work on ways for us to take advantage of the shift into the next gen. And quite frankly, it won't be doing it the same way that we've been doing it the last few years.
One of the challenges that we had was getting this press conference moved as far back into the summer as we could, so that we'd have an opportunity to talk with people who might be considering a change that would be attractive to us, and we would be attractive to them. So we've definitely got our shingle out. We're in the business to stay, and we're looking to reset and to move forward with the most aggressive attack at the rules changes and the hardware changes that the next-gen car has. And to reevaluate the skill sets and to look at making improvements and additions to our organization out of people that are at a point in their career where they're ready for a change, as Brad was.
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. Brad, having visited the humble beginnings you grew up in that cinder block garage, and hearing the stories about you cleaning parts, running down to the convenience store for cigarettes and sodas for your dad and uncles, what does this moment mean to you?
Well, it's a huge moment. You know, I'll be honest, Lee, I never dreamed this big. You know, I've always been kind of a one step at a time guy, and you know, when I was a kid, my goal was just to be able to stay with my family and be a part of their racing business. And, you know, life had other plans, and as I grew up, you know, I thought, man, if I could just have a career in NASCAR, that would be great. And then that turned into, if I could just win a race in NASCAR, that would be great. And then that turned into, hey, if I could just make it to the Cup level, that would be great. Next thing I knew, I was 4 races in and I'd won a Cup race. And I was thinking, you know what would be nice is if I could have a full-time ride and win a championship. And, you know, so those goals have always kind of, you know, elevated, and I imagine they always will. And this one was, you know, the natural transition from winning a championship and being a part of, you know, building a winning company at Team Penske. Surely not the only reason, but a part of it. And so this is the next evolution for me. This is the next growth. And quite honestly, I never had any expectation that these opportunities would happen. I've always believed in trying to align yourself for good things to happen, whether that's, you know, the way you train yourself and how you're constantly reinvesting, or to other things. And, you know, whether it be the Truck Series team or the manufacturing business, those were moves made very intentionally to align myself for an opportunity like this. But quite honestly, I had no idea this opportunity was going to happen. When it came, though, I knew I was ready for it. And I feel like this is, yeah, there's some parts of it that are scary, without a doubt. It's a challenge. It's not going to be easy. But I've been studying my whole life to be ready for this moment, and I'm ready for the test.
Thank you. And will you turn your Tigers hat in for a Red Sox cap now?
Well, we haven't had that discussion yet. Right now, there's a lot more to cheer for in Boston than there is in Detroit, so I think I'll remain a fair weather fan for years to come.
Deb Williams, RacingToday.com. I have 2 questions, one for Brad and one for Jack. First, Brad, kind of building on what Lee asked, you saw what your parents went through owning a team, the financial struggles. Then you owned a truck team. Now you've kind of gone through the Penske School of Management. What have you learned in all of this that will benefit coming to Roush Fenway as a minority owner?
Well, a tremendous amount, Deb. I think, you know, as I was talking with my opening remarks, I brought up the strength of the front office at Roush Fenway today, and specifically the ability to leverage the Fenway Sports Management Group. But beyond that, this is a very strong front office group in general, and that's super important. My strengths are not in that particular category, and this company has a strength there that I think aligns with what I would probably recognize as a weakness for myself. And so with respect to that, you know, I think that gives me the freedom to focus very heavily on the competition side, to be able to affect change, create a culture of excellence that's really important to our success, and still have the confidence that we can be a viable, sustainable business for decades to come. And I think Mr. Jack Roush has had a similar approach that's been very successful and led to a lot of success to date along those same terms.
Thank you. And Jack, you've mentioned a few times about Brad's other business on the side, his aerospace business. And you've always had Roush Industries in addition to your race team. And Roush Industries is phenomenal, having toured it. Because of Brad having his side business in addition to racing, do you see Brad, as a young you, in the drive that you had in building so much of an empire?
When I look at Brad, I think about the things I went through and the years that he's put in so far, and I see a lot of similarity in the way he's accepted challenge and the things he was motivated to do. You know, I started my Roush Industries business in 1976, and that was years before I started my NASCAR business in 1988. But it was the idea that people asked me why I was going NASCAR racing when I was 46 years old and I'd had a good success record, drag racing, winning championships, road racing, winning championships. And I said, because I thought I could. And I think the reason Brad is wanting to grab a hold of this tiger's tail and to whip it into shape is that he thinks he can. And I'm cheering for him because he's got energy at his age that I expended at my age, that we're anxious to see how he can do with it going forward.
Thank you.
Hey there, Alex Andreev with the Charlotte Observer. This is just one practical question, I guess, for Brad, but when is your official start date now that this announcement is out? And how, is there going to be any overlap with Roush in the next 3 to 4 months, I guess?
Yeah, I think right now, first off, I will not start this role until the season's over in 2021. I have commitments and contracts with Team Penske that I fully intend to honor at the highest level possible. So there will certainly be a time period here where we're, is it the Darrell Waltrip term, frenemies? So we're competing against each other with an expectation that we each have individually to beat each other. And then certainly we'll come back together, but when that time is right. So certainly an interesting dynamic. I don't think in any other sport you compete against the team you're about to join, at least not that I know of. So it is a unique relationship, but we all have contracts and obligations that we need to fulfill at this current time.
We'll go to Lewis. In that role, we'll do the bingo, right?
This for Steve. Louis Franco, Reuters. Brad mentioned that perhaps after this announcement, there'll be some applicants for jobs. Who gets to review the resumes? And I'm not applying, just curious.
Well, like anything, we've got a wonderful sport, but everybody lives together, right? So if you compare us to stick and ball sports where the teams are scattered around the country, our whole industry is right here. So there's always discussions going on between different teams as people try to recruit and upgrade their talent. We are very blessed to have a phenomenal foundation at Roush, and we've got a lot of unbelievable folks that work under the Roush Fenway umbrella, but I think as with any team, you can't be stagnant, and we've got to keep trying to get better. And the nice thing is that as we go into the next gen world, we're not going to be contracting. We don't envision our workforce getting smaller, even though there's a lot of efficiencies with next gen. For us to get where we need to be, we're looking to expand, and so we'll be adding positions, and so those will come in through all different channels, but ultimately, particularly at the highest levels, you'll have, Jack and Brad will be making the call on the direction that we go on the competition side.
Steve Richards with PRN. Brad, how did you break the news to Roger? When did it happen? How did that meeting go? And I assume it was face-to-face.
Yeah, I was able to, have that conversation with him, and that wasn't an easy conversation, I think, for either side, and it was, for me at least, a tough kind of goodbye in some terms, but, I think Mr. Penske was, a consummate professional, and I think he understood, and I know he spoke to a lot of you guys already about that, but certainly wasn't an easy conversation, but, part of the process, and I was glad I got to be able to talk to him.
Alan Cavana, similar, piggybacking off that question, did you express those 4 things you wanted to Roger Penske, and was there a frustration or a point where you realized it wasn't going to happen and your future wouldn't be there?
Yeah, I think that it was, pretty well known, and, I would hesitate to get into any detail about any negotiations I had with Roger Penske because, ultimately the ship has kind of sailed. But I want to express the gratitude I have more so than anything else for the opportunities he provided me to date. and don't want to leave with any other emotion besides that.
All right, if that concludes our questions, we'll do a few photos up here. I think Steve wanted to.
Sure. Again, want to thank everybody for taking the time, but want to express some special gratitude to Mr. Jim France. I think it is a testament to his passion to the sport. We see it in the garage every day about how much he cares and how much of his time he dedicates to the future of this sport. And I think you guys get to see a glimpse of it, that he came up from Florida just to stand in his usual spot in the back of the room to make sure that he supports us and that he understands that the sport is in good hands going forward. So thank you. And with that, I think we will break. And
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so there you go. Press conference is over. We'll come back from the break with a full breakdown of the announcement, the press release, and for those in the chat, go ahead and chat away. We'll talk with you after this quick break. We're back now with the full release. Roush Fenway Racing and NASCAR champion Brad Keselowski have announced a partnership beginning in 2022 in which Keselowski will assume an ownership role and serve as head of the team's competition committee while also piloting the team's flagship number 6 Ford Mustang. The partnership pairs one of the most successful organizations in NASCAR history with a perennial NASCAR contender and champion. Roush founded the team in 1988, and it has since become one of the most successful racing operations in the world, propelling him to be the first NASCAR owner to amass 300 wins and capturing 8 championships, including back-to-back NASCAR Cup titles in 2003 and 2004. Keselowski has been a consistent contender at NASCAR's highest level for the past decade, having tallied 35 wins in NASCAR Cup Series competition while qualifying for the NASCAR playoffs with 10 consecutive seasons. He led Team Penske to its first NASCAR Cup Series championship in 2012 and has finished inside the top 10 in 8 of the last 10 seasons, including a runner-up finish in 2020. Overall, Keselowski boasts 75 NASCAR wins and has led more than 14,000 laps. Considered a pioneer in driver development, Roush initially teamed with future Hall of Famer Mark Martin, forming what would grow into one of the most formidable duos in NASCAR history. In addition, he was responsible for launching the careers of NASCAR champions Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, Kurt Busch, Carl Edwards, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chris Buescher, and many others. Currently, Roush's Fords have driven to victory lane on 325 occasions, while leading over 68,000 laps in NASCAR action. As an owner, Keselowski finished runner-up in the NASCAR Truck Series twice while consistently fielding championship contending entries and helping to launch the careers of some of the sport's most formidable rising stars, such as Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, Daniel Hemrick, Chase Briscoe, and Austin Cindric. This marks the second major ownership addition to the team since its inception, Roush partnered with Fenway Sports Group owner John Henry, who also owns Major League Baseball's Boston Red Sox and English Premier League's Liverpool FC in 2007, to form Roush Fenway Racing. Tom Werner, Mike Gordon, LeBron James, and Maverick Carter are also key partners in the Fenway Sports Group. The team will provide additional details on driver lineup, partners, and other team assets at a later date. This has been an MDM Racing special report. I'm Matthew Merlino. For all of us at MDM Racing, we'll have more of this story on MDM Tonight at 7.